Recording. All right, we're live. All right, how you doing, everybody? This is Jocelyn. Jocelyn, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Okay. Oh, you changed. I just noticed you changed it from CrossFit Rio to Jocelyn in the
I
bottom.
put my actual name in there, yeah.
So you own a CrossFit gym.
Yes.
How long have you owned the gym?
12 years. We're
That's
into our
awesome.
13th year now. Yeah.
That's fantastic. That's great. I owned one for about 5, almost 6 years, and sold it last September.
Oh, good for
Now
you.
I'm mostly online doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
Well, it was a good time.
Yeah. It was, the whole, how did you guys handle the COVID stuff?
We were shut down for 3 months from March to June.
Okay.
We loaned out every piece of equipment in the gym and we did Zoom classes, adapted like quite a lot of the CrossFit gyms have. We've been lucky where we are. We've been open since June. Currently, our capacity is only 8. We're only allowed to have 8 people in a class at a time and working it with masks on. But in all the provinces around us, we're in Canada. In Western Canada, we're the only province that still has gyms open. So can't complain.
Okay.
We're lucky to be able to still be
that's very lucky. Okay, cool. So tell us, so you've owned a CrossFit gym for 12 years. So how long have you been in CrossFit?
It'll be just about 13 years. So this would have been 2008.
Okay.
I came from the world of like bodybuilding, like the normal, reps and sets and Mondays back and buys and Tuesdays.
Yep.
I had spent a couple years doing like figure, like the bikini competitions and that kind of stuff. And I read an article in a muscle and fitness magazine. It was called The Hardest Workout in the World. And I, like lots of people when they first try CrossFit, like I thought I was in great shape.
Yeah.
I was doing all this like bodybuilding, weightlifting and running half marathons. I did yoga all the time. So my now husband, my boyfriend at the time, and I were like, oh, like, bring it, let's try this workout. So we kind of looked on CrossFit.com, and this was back before there was CrossFit gyms anywhere around where we lived. So it was the two of us kind of cobbled together a workout, did it at a Gold's Gym in Calgary, Alberta, and died. Like
absolutely
got owned so hard by this workout and went like, what is this? And like, I thought I was in good shape and clearly I was not. And so we just kind of dove in and started following the workouts for ourselves. Found it obviously like really challenging and, actual increases in real valuable types of fitness. Around the same time, we had both decided to quit our jobs, like complete morons. In a gym. We opened
been there, done that.
My husband used to run a restaurant and I used to work in the finance industry. So I was had a regular corporate office job. I worked for an investment firm called Invesco. And we both just like weren't really happy with what we were doing. And we were finding we wanted to spend every minute being active and in the gym and thought, well, we're young and dumb, let's quit our jobs and open a gym. So we started off as a personal training studio and, doing kind of more typical reps and sets and, isolated body part kind of stuff with our clients. And then after we were playing around with these CrossFit workouts, we started introducing them to our clients and we found that they liked it way better and they were getting way fitter. And then, we found by the time the next year rolled around, people weren't getting hurt, gardening, lifting the wheelbarrow in their garden and these kind of, everyday activities. And we didn't set out to open a CrossFit gym. We just kind of followed what was working and, 12 years.
Imagine that CrossFit works. Who would have thunk?
And we found people liked working out with other people. We used to just only do one-on-one personal training, which obviously is like quite expensive. We would have people say, could I split the cost of the trainer between 2 of us? We go, sure, come in together. Can it be 3 people? Can we come in groups of 5? And then we started putting group times on our schedule where people could come in small groups. And then we just found like, man, people worked harder and they had way more fun and, accidentally discovered the CrossFit group model as the most effective.
Right. No, that's awesome. I mean, CrossFit, the whole CrossFit thing was accidental kind of anyways, right? I mean, I doubt Glassman said, hey, I'm going to come up with this thing and make a multi-billion-dollar business.
Yeah.
Way back in the day. All right. So you got a CrossFit gym, you started doing CrossFit early on. Let's talk about your journey nutrition-wise.
Sure.
Right. So a lot of my focus is on fitness. I think, in the keto carnivore space, which is probably where most people that are going to be watching this are in, there's so many people talking about nutrition. What people I find a lot of people aren't talking about is the practical application of fitness concepts and how people can do fitness and find fitness and what works and what doesn't work and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of where I want most of my conversations to be, is focused on the fitness piece of what is working for people. Like you said, you found what works, and talking about that kind of stuff. I'm sure I get it all. I know I get it all the time. I'm sure you get it all the time. And that is, you have to have carbs in order to do CrossFit. It is impossible. You can't be successful. You can't perform well. And I've gotten to the point where I don't even bother with the argument anymore. I just say, I've been doing it for 3 years. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's cool. I'm good. I'm good to go. I'm doing better now than I ever did in my CrossFit career.
Yeah.
You can theorize all you want, but have a blast. What has your experience been with that? You are on Instagram as the keto athlete.
Yep.
Right? So I'm assuming that you're low carb and doing CrossFit. And wow.
Yeah.
So tell us about that.
So, okay, back in 2008, the early days of CrossFit, it was really all about paleo, right? It was Lauren Cordain, it was Rob Wolf, and that kind of like ancestral health idea of like, just eat real food, right?
Right.
Stay away from the sugar, the grains, the dairy, the vegetable oils, like the really processed kind of stuff, which I think was a great place to start. And I think for most people, if you can just eat real food, the classic CrossFit prescription of meats and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar, I think that's going to get you most of the way to where you need to be. And then incidentally, that's relative to a standard American diet, that is a low carb diet, right? Like if you're just going to focus on whole food, relative to what most people are eating, that's a low carb diet. So I had my first baby in 2010, and then between 2010 and 2016, when I had my second baby, those 6 years, I did a lot of the competitive CrossFit type stuff. So I went to regionals, back in the day when there was still regionals, did that kind of stuff. Also found a passion for Olympic weightlifting, got the privilege to train and travel and compete with our provincial weightlifting team, and went to Canadian nationals every year for I think about 5 years in there. So definitely like experienced the competitive side of CrossFit, and very much fell into that. And I remember saying out loud to people, I was like, if I wasn't competing, I would totally be low carb all the time, but fell into this, like, I need carbs to perform.
Yeah.
So, was following probably a time restricted, like accidentally time restricted feeding. I would be low carb most of the day, eggs and bacon for breakfast kind of thing. And then I would carb up after I would train. But it got, and I've written about this on my blog on the Keto Athlete, like it got way more than would be necessary for training, right? I became like a pretty closeted sugar addict. Like I said candies, and I'd be like, oh, I worked out hard today, like I can eat this sugar, and to some extent, like it worked okay for a while. And then 2016, I had another baby. So that was like a real hard reset. Wasn't going to be competing. I had kind of a tough pregnancy and another C-section to recover from. And so I went like, okay, this is like wiping the slate clean. I don't have any pressure. I can try something different. And if it's a failure, whatever. So I had, after I had that baby, I was like, well, I'm going to revisit this, counting your macros was like this big trend. Going to count my macros.
Did you do IFY? Did you do IFYM, or what did you follow up?
Yeah, like thing? I mean, it's more of a whole foods based thing, but I'm like breastfeeding at the time, and I thought like, okay, this like 40, 30, 30, 40% carbs, 30% protein, 30% fat seems to be the thing that everybody pushes.
That sounds so high to me right now.
And after I had that baby, trying to count my macros and follow this prescription, I gained weight, and I went, this is not the direction this is supposed to go. So I went like, well, okay, that was kind of my last attempt at trying what is the mainstream nutrition advice. And I went like, no, like we're going to revisit something different. And I had switched to training in the morning. I used to always train in the afternoon, and I was having a hard time finding the energy to train in the morning. I didn't want to eat first, but it felt I didn't like training fasted at the time. And so I started with bulletproof coffee. I was like, well, let's give this a whirl.
Everybody starts with that. I started with that. I was like, that's awesome. It tastes so good.
Yeah, like I thought, you read all these like rave reviews, I'll start there. And then that kind of got me down the rabbit hole of learning about keto. And, of course, the idea of training on not only a low carb, but like a very low carb ketogenic diet and doing a high intensity sport like CrossFit was like heretical, especially back, this was 4 years ago now.
It still is.
It's still, yeah. We found, a few of us little weirdos have found each other now. So that's when I started the Keto Athlete. It started with just my Instagram, and it was just me like posting what I was eating and how it was going. And it's kind of taken off from there. I made a website out of it now, the ketoathlete.org.
Cool.
Yeah, it's, it's totally possible. It's totally fine. I've, regained and maintained lots of my fitness and my strength. And I post like recipes and self-experiments. I've done blood tests and DEXA scans and sworn CGMs and shared all of the data just to kind of hopefully educate a few people that are willing to listen, that a lot of that conventional wisdom of things that you hear out there just aren't necessarily supported. You can just try it for yourself and you can see.
Absolutely. And I wish more people, it's funny how the biggest, the most vocal people that I have that are saying that what I'm doing isn't going to work or it's bad or whatever it is that they're saying are people that haven't tried it. It's like, I hear what you're saying, try it, and you come back to me after you've tried it for a few months and see.
Yeah.
When you went from paleo, whole foods, and or the macro counting, whatever it was, and you decided, okay, I'm going to try this keto thing. What was the transition? Did you notice a longer transition or a difference in your day-to-day adaptation versus your exercise and workout adaptation? Was there a difference? Was it long? Like, how did that work?
What was that adaptation phase like? And I don't have a good answer or one that's necessarily very applicable to people, because I did that keto transition when my baby was 6 months old, and I felt like shit all the time. Sleeping right, and just for a variety of reasons, my body wasn't back where it was.
Okay.
So many things. There were so many variables in there that if keto had made me feel worse for a couple months, I don't know that I would have noticed, honestly. So that was January of 2017. So we're coming up on almost exactly 4 years. So it was from January of 2017 to, I always say about April. So about 4 months, where it was by April where I was like, I feel awesome. And I just all of a sudden was like, man, like my energy levels are great. I am sleeping really well. My workouts feel really smooth. Everything just really felt like it hit its stride. And there's been, since then, a few people in my gym's community that have done the keto transition phase as well. And it seems like about 4 months, somewhere between 3 and 4 months is that marker where you're like, oh, okay, now
I get it.
And I kind of understand more of the biology and the biochemistry in the background that's making that happen for that time frame. But I think when people say, oh, like the keto adaptation phase is 2 weeks, like, no, it's definitely takes longer than that.
Yeah. And I tell people that I kind of explain it as there's 2 phases. If you're a high intensity, athlete or fitness person, that there's that everyday lifestyle level of energy and activity where that may take 3 to 4 weeks for most people. Some people say in 2 weeks they feel better, whatever.
Yeah.
But from a performance perspective, for me, it was about somewhere between the 8 and 12 week range before I started feeling like my workouts and things were okay. I don't feel like crap in my workouts. I can feel like I can lift again. Like, hey, hold on a second, And then after that, it just was ridiculous. My performance went off the roof. My recovery went up off the roof, right? I was able to almost double my training volume each week because I didn't have to worry about being sore as crap all the time. All that kind of stuff. So cool. All right. So in your gym, so you have a gym, do you guys have a nutrition program or services and things that you offer? And do you kind of work with people on as keto as your base?
We haven't, but that's definitely a mission. As I've kind of done the keto athlete thing, is like I've always said, it's just a hobby. It's just stuff I'm interested in learning about and kind of geeking out on. But it's to the point where I've accumulated enough knowledge in this area, and during the lockdown, to complete more continuing education credits, did the nutrition networks, clinical applications of a ketogenic diet, and Mark Syson's primal health coach, and kind of going through all these things. I'm like, okay, like it's the next phases. It's time to like
some of the things that are all on my list.
Yeah.
There's so many of them out there.
Yeah. With the CrossFit certification I have, there's lots and lots of continuing education hours to always get in every year.
I think I only have like 15 left
Oh,
for
that's
mine.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've
and
been
somehow
cranking
3
stuff
years,
out.
like,
So
they
yeah,
fly by, so
yeah,
if you
yeah.
can stay on top of that.
Um, it's good. I honestly, so talking about certifications for anybody listening, what we're talking about is CrossFit has different levels of education and certifications for their trainers. I'm a
Mhm.
level 3 certified coach. Jocelyn's a level 4 certified coach. And those two levels, you don't have to get recertified every year, but you have to get continuing education and time on the floor coaching in order to be able to maintain your certification. So
Yeah,
um, it's one of the best. I mean, I would arguably say the best industry standard training certification programs out there.
yeah,
I'm NASM certified as a personal trainer as well. It's like 2 credits a year. It's a crazy, take a couple online courses, listen to a couple podcasts, and you're good.
yeah,
It's like, okay, great. And pay us your money, because that's really what it's all
yeah.
about. So, all right, cool. What are some of so have you ever had, pregnancy, let's talk about pregnancy, because it's not something I normally get a chance to talk about. I do see questions, and I do have people that have talked to me and asked about doing keto while you're pregnant. You did it after your last baby.
Yeah.
So you didn't do it while you were pregnant. You kind of did it as a post thing. Have you
Mhm.
ever worked with or helped someone do it as they're pregnant, while they were pregnant?
I've only just
Mhm.
like the cool thing about Instagram is it's allowed me to connect with, lots of people that are trying things for themselves like you,
Okay, yeah.
and have connected with a few different like keto mama, and there's one keto breastfeeding
Mhm.
mama, something like that, where other people that have tried things and are like us willing to share their experiences
Right.
while pregnant or breastfeeding after. I think people want to go, is it safe? I think it's important to understand like what ketosis is. When someone says a keto diet, like what does
Right.
that mean, to go, is that safe or is that not safe? Like people will go, well, a ketogenic diet is under 20 grams of carbs a day. Well, like maybe, or ketogenic
Right.
diet can't be more than 5% carbs a day. Like maybe,
Maybe. Yeah.
or a ketogenic diet is anything that causes elevated levels of ketones in your blood. The end. That's it. Right? For
Mhm.
some people, maybe you or I could eat 100 grams of carbs a day and still have ketones present in our blood every day.
Mhm.
For some people, maybe it's less than 20 grams of carbs a day. Maybe the type of carbs matters. Maybe if it's fructose versus glucose versus lactose, it's going to make a difference. Like there's so many different variables in a diet that you could say are like good or bad or better or worse or safe or unsafe. I think having ketones present in your blood while you're pregnant is perfectly fine, right? They're very neuroprotective. It's good for baby. It means automatically that your glucose levels are going to be lower and more stable. So you're
Mhm.
avoiding problems like gestational diabetes and babies that are born overweight and all the problems associated with hyperglycemia.
Right.
Um, is it a bad thing if a pregnant woman eats some carbs once in a while? No. But obviously, like, I think probably more than anything is like whole foods, eat real foods,
Right.
nutrient dense. I'm a huge fan of Dr. Kate Shanahan. I don't know if you've read her book, Deep Nutrition. She goes quite a bit in her first book in Deep Nutrition into nutrient status of younger women, like before they have babies and then during pregnancies and then the post phase and the time between pregnancies being the time
Okay.
that you need to like replenish all your nutrient stores.
Yeah.
And he's a big fan of like meat on the bone broth, like
Yeah.
sprouted and fermented foods, like all, that real like ancestral health kind of stuff. So
Okay. Cool. Cool. Um, Talk about I'm going to assume that you've had conversations with other women, and it's a challenge, probably something that you may feel strongly about. And that is 2 things when it comes to working with women. I get it with working with women. I get it when working with guys, at least one of them. And that is a fear of a protein and a fear of lifting heavy weights. How do you address those? What are your thoughts on those 2 things?
yeah, I actually don't encounter people in my bubble that are afraid of protein,
Okay.
hardly ever.
Okay.
And I'm
Good for
lucky to be
you.
like in this little bubble. So because we've had our CrossFit gym, it's been around for 12 years. We're very stable. More than 50% of our membership has completed more than 1,000 workouts.
That's
So
awesome. Yeah.
our community is built of like long-term, very committed people. So I don't run into that, oh, I don't want to get bulky thing very often anymore.
Okay. Okay.
Sometimes when we bring, new people, new members into our community, once in a while, we'll have that kind of pushback. I think in general, and maybe it's my bias from inside this bubble, I find a lot more women are into the sort of like badassery of being a strong chick, like I find that more often.
I
They're
think
like,
that's
I want to
definitely
get
your,
strong,
yeah, that's
and
definitely
then
your
like
bubble.
that, I don't know if it's being portrayed in the media more, if there's more like fitness models on Instagram making like not being waif thin cool, right? So,
Yes.
but every once in a while, I'll find someone that, is like, oh, like I don't want to lift heavy, I
Mhm.
don't want to get
Mhm.
bulky. I mean, I try not to push back on it initially, and
Right.
I just say like, that's cool. Um, I recognize that I'm a bulkier female than a lot of women would aspire to be, and that's totally fine. Like we don't all have to like the same types of body composition. We don't all
Mhm.
have to idealize the same things. I always just remind people that like I have been trying to get bigger and stronger for like 15 years. And this is
And
it.
this is all I've got.
I'm 128 pounds and this is as big and strong as I'm getting, right? And that is like dedicated effort of like dieting and nutrition and training hard and lifting heavy and like, I hold records in weightlifting, like that kind of stuff. And that is as big as I'm gonna get. So that and let's call me bulky. Let's call me like the
Yeah.
well-muscled female that some people would not want to be. It doesn't happen by accident.
Right.
If you
Absolutely.
don't want to be that thing, you're not going to end up that thing by accident. Because let me tell you, it takes, years and years and years and years of dedicated nonstop training and nutrition to get there. So I find if I don't push it too much, I don't need people to, want to
Mhm.
look like me or for us to like the same kinds of things.
Sure.
I just go, that's cool. Like it won't happen by accident. Don't worry. If you don't want it, it won't happen.
Right. Just tell them the focus is on your health and your fitness, you'll
Yeah.
look fit, and that's kind of,
And
if you
then I
get fit,
find if you just kind of let people explore that on their own, in 6 or 12 months, they'll come around to being like, I want to lift more. I want to lift heavier. I paired my clean and jerk today. Or like they
right.
get really excited about it on their own. But I empathize because I was there too, right? So when I started
Mhm.
CrossFit 12 years ago, 13 years ago, I was in that world of bodybuilding and figure and trying to be smaller and always dieting and trying to get leaner and all that kind of stuff. I was trying to be less. And when I first started CrossFit and it was all this squatting and pull-ups, and I was like, I don't want my legs to get bigger. I don't want my lats to get wider. Like, I don't want to get bulkier. So I was there too. I totally understand,
Yeah.
coming from that
Yeah.
world. And then, it just took me a while to get into like, oh, the whole world of CrossFit. It's not about how many calories did we burn today and doing my weekly weigh-in of how much skinnier did I get this week. It's like,
Hmm.
it's so much more positive to go like, how many more pull-ups could I do today? How many more pounds could I back squat? And it's like so much more positive of trying to do more and be capable of more things than always just trying to eat less or be less or weigh less,
Yeah. I like what you said, right? There's a mentality, particularly for women in today's
Mhm.
society, of being less.
Yeah,
And the CrossFit mentality is helping women be more.
totally. And that's
And
like,
I really love that.
I
I
love
like
it.
that a lot.
Yeah.
We got to contact HQ and tell them to start using that.
Yeah.
I'm sure you got connections. I'm not an affiliate owner anymore, so I can't call anybody.
Yeah.
um, what is your routine look like from a nutrition standpoint? So you work out how often or how long do you work out in a day? Do you do twofers, or like, what are you doing?
I like really just work out for regular general life fitness anymore. The
Mhm.
competitive side of things, and especially this year with COVID, and I mean, nothing's happening anyway.
Right.
Um, so I work out maybe 4 or 5 days a week if I have a good week.
Okay.
Um, my 10-year-old and I have been working out a lot
I
together in
love
this
it.
last year, which is
Yes.
really fun. He's doing competitive gymnastics, so he's getting really good at like the handstands and all the bar skills and all that
Yeah.
stuff. So we
Okay.
try to and he's doing a
Jealous.
program
So
called
jealous.
Ed, so he's at home this year. So we do Monday morning family phys ed class. We have a fully kitted out garage gym. So my
Nice.
husband and I and my son, we work out every Monday morning. He has to log phys ed credits for his school and stuff.
Okay.
Um, and then I try to fit them in wherever I can. I follow the programming we do for our gym. I don't do anything extra on top of that anymore. And I just try to fit them in when I can. 4 or 5 days a week is a good week for me. Sometimes it's like 2, if I'm not on my routine as much. The time of day can vary. Sometimes in the morning, sometimes mid-afternoon, sometimes late at night.
Fasted, not fasted?
I prefer to work out fasted.
Okay.
I don't like having a full belly of food before I work out.
Do you try to do any timing with any of your nutrition?
I don't. Well, not around my workouts, I should say.
Sure. Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Yeah, right.
About the time restricted feeding. Try to make sure there's at least 14 hours of just water only between last meal and first calories of the day. And then I'll do the old bulletproof coffee. I'm still working on it right now for another 4 hours of the day. So about 14 hours water only, about another 4 hours of fat only. So you could call that a fat fast. It's just like a continued low insulin environment. And then the actual food of the day is maybe 2 big meals in a like 4 to maybe 6 hour window. So somewhere around.
Okay. So how much total? So at 4 hours, how much protein do you eat? You said you weigh 125 pounds.
You know, it's been a long time since I've tracked macros. I get at least 1 gram per pound of body weight every day for sure. Sometimes 1.5 grams per pound.
That's kind of what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking. Okay. And that's what I recommend, particularly people that are that are very active.
Yeah. So somewhere between 120 and 180 grams of protein.
I know some 250-pound men that can't eat that much meat in a day. They're like, that's too much meat. I can't take it.
I did have one lady that was like, okay, I'm trying to like get enough protein. And she's like, how do you do it in a day? And I remember sending her a picture of my breakfast. I was like, how can you not get enough protein in a day? It was like 3 eggs and, you know, ground beef and some sausages. And, you know, it was like, if you focus on animal foods, you're not going to be protein deficient.
You're not going to be protein deficient. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. What do you think the biggest takeaway that you've gotten in your experience as a CrossFit owner, like when it comes to fitness and helping people become fit? Now you've had like you said, you've had a pretty stable environment for several years, so you're not dealing with, I guess, with as many new people coming in. But well, let's just talk about this then. How do you keep the people you have engaged? What are some of the things that you have found work to help people stay engaged and maintain fitness over a period of time?
I think probably the key thing that we found with our stickiest members, our most dedicated, is routine. We've had multiple locations over the years. We had our original location. We opened a second one. We opened a third one, thinking, oh, this will be awesome. We'll give people all this extra flexibility. They can go to multiple locations, whatever works in their schedule, wherever they can be. And contrary to what we thought, they totally don't. People are very routine, or the people that are the most dedicated are very routine, sticking to not only the same location, but even the same class time. So like the people that come at noon are like nooners. They're there all the time. The 6 a.m.ers are 6 a.m.ers all the time, pretty much. Like, so routine seems to be a really key piece of people making those lifelong habits and making them sticky, so that really it becomes like brushing your teeth. Do you have to put a lot of thought into getting up and brushing your teeth every day? Does it take willpower? No, you just get up and do it, right? So then if people can make those good habits as essential as having a shower or brushing your teeth every day, it doesn't take a lot of like cognitive effort to make it happen.
Sure.
And then when people become very routine and they come at the same time, then there's this very strong community that happens. And I think there's definitely something from like a, you know, ancestral evolutionary psychology perspective to people doing hard things in a group.
Together. Yeah, absolutely.
Together. That bonds them really closely. And then I think when people have that sense of belonging to like a tribe, essentially, that fulfills like a deep need in people that we don't even really realize is there, but it's definitely missing with how kind of disconnected we are with each other these days.
Particularly now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've done a few of these videos recently, and I'm realizing that in all of these, I'm kind of inadvertently, you know, pushing CrossFit on people. But I'm not necessarily ashamed of that. I'm fine with that. What are some of do you still get the CrossFit's not safe You know, if I try, I don't want to try that because I'm going to get hurt. Do you ever still hear that?
Um,
I still do every once in a while.
yeah, like, I mean, I'm so far into the CrossFit bubble that I don't step out into the real world. Like I
Come
said,
outside, Jocelyn, and play.
I know, come outside the bubble. I mean, aside, especially now in the year of COVID, I am
Right.
at home with my
Yeah.
family. My whole family does CrossFit. My husband, my kids, my parents, like everybody I see does CrossFit. And then I go to my gym
How old are,
and that's it. Like,
how old are your parents?
what are they, 68 and 69.
Okay, so my mom is 66 and she was a member at my gym, so she's been doing CrossFit for about 6 years.
Yeah,
Um, it's awesome.
it
There's
is.
something so cool about doing burpees with your mom at the gym
Yeah,
or watching her, helping her coach her through her clean and jerks and stuff like that. And you're like, this is amazing.
yeah.
It's so cool.
My parents were, they were willing victims when we live, my husband and I live back in the city where I grew up now. So when we moved back and we started our personal training studio, both my parents were very overweight. So my dad would have been in his early 50s. He was like all the things, abdominal obesity, migraines, hypertension, hypercholesterolemia. Like his
Mhm.
doctor wanted to put him on all the meds and the statins, like the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't want to do the drugs yet. Give me like 6 months to try to get it together. So he had started trying to run,
Mhm.
right? Like what everybody just thinks, I'm going to get in shape, I'm going to run. And then when we moved back, we started doing personal training with them, and then obviously like taught them how to do CrossFit. And
Yeah.
now, I mean, it's been 13 years since we started doing that with them. They're both normal body weight. They both have been for, more than a decade. They lost, my mom lost about 80 pounds. My dad lost about 70, and they've kept it off that whole time. And, they're stronger and more capable than they were in their early 50s. Like when my
Right.
mom set foot in the gym, I fully remember that she could not do a lunge. Like if she got down into a lunge position, she couldn't get back up.
And get up.
And we're pushing on, our hands to like try to
Right.
get up. So from a person that had never done anything athletic or any sports, we weren't a very outdoorsy family growing up,
Mhm.
anything like that. So I always just feel like, man, if someone, at that age in her 50s with like no athletic experience whatsoever can turn it around and, be comfortable in a gym now and lifts weights and does burpees and, it's like
That's
anybody can do it. And
it's
then
so
the
cool.
quality of life that gives you into your later
Right.
years is just like
Right.
priceless.
Especially now that they have grandkids, right? They don't have to worry
Yeah.
about being able to be active and do stuff with their grandkids. And if you do want to go on a hike, they can go with you. And it's just
Yeah.
all that stuff is really cool.
Yeah. And our kids are with them a lot. And so thank goodness that they're in good enough shape to keep.
Keep up with them, because
Yeah.
kids that age are not easy to deal with, right?
Yeah.
And you got three of them. So I had four. They're all older now. My youngest is 18, but I had
Oh,
four all 2 years apart. So
oh wow.
yeah, that was fun.
That was some,
Awesome. I appreciate your time. I think we got a lot of good information. I think you know, there's a lot to be said for living what you preach, right? We both, you and I think I'm hoping at some point in time we're not the anomalies when it comes to CrossFit and high intensity sports or activity.
Mhm.
People start realizing you can do this stuff. You don't have to shove carbs down your face in order to be able to perform, right? I mean, your body can do amazing things, and it's
Yeah.
designed to do things. You don't need the carbs.
I think
Um,
that if you really look at the core of CrossFit, so if you go back, you read the level 1 trainer manual, the prescription of, meats and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar. That's a low carb prescription.
mhm.
Even if you go back to the old zone thing, I did the zone in the
I
early
was
days.
I was going to ask you about that, but then we started talking about some other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
It drove me crazy. Zone drives me
And
crazy.
but where you started from, which for me as a like small female was like 9 blocks, right? If we go
Yeah.
back to now, it sounds kind of funny, but and then what everybody would do was up the fat, right? If it wasn't enough calories, you did 5 times the fat. And if you actually start to break down the macros there, what you're getting a lot closer to is like a keto diet, right? You're getting into like a much lower percentage of carbs, a much higher percentage of fat, and sort of an adequate amount of protein.
Mhm.
And if you look now, you go to the CrossFit's YouTube channel, all those beautiful recipe videos that they post. Do you know how many carbs are in each of those recipes?
Mm.
Under 10 grams. all of them.
Really?
Yeah. So they're
I
all,
see. I haven't been following any of
low
that.
carb recipes.
That's awesome.
And even in the level 1 seminars, in the nutrition lecture, we talk about keto now. It's one of the diets that we mentioned. It's one of the things. So I think, and like I said, maybe it's sort of my bias, confirmation bias, that you look for things out there, but I think it's out there. And I think if people are paying attention, it's becoming more of the mainstream kind of thing.
That's good. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've thought about, yeah. Is there so there's a new level 1 manual out that's got some of that information in it now? I should probably look that up.
Yeah, it's something in the nutrition lecture in the level 1. I actually just started working for the CrossFit Level 1 seminar staff this past fall.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Good for you.
So new to the team and new to all that stuff, but had the pleasure of interning and observing the level 1s over the past year and just kind of getting to see the background and like listen to them. It had been, the last time I did a level 1 cert prior to that was 2008. So it had been a long time since I had
a lot of new stuff.
Yeah. And, they're very much on board with like incorporating new information as it becomes available. And if you look at the interviews that they do on the CrossFit YouTube channel, who are they talking to? It's Gary Taubes.
Right. That I saw. Yeah. Jason Fong, like there's a lot of,
Yeah, he's employed or paid, sponsored by the CrossFit Health Organization to do the research that he does. It's Jason Fung. It's, it's lots of these guys that are talking about, fasting and low carb and keto. And I think it's coming around. I hope so. And then, it takes people like us going like, hey, it's not crazy. It works.
Right.
I've been keto for 4 years, essentially carnivore for the last year of it. Like,
I was going to ask you how much. So you talked about, your protein, you get protein. And you did talk about eating meat. Have you tried just carnivore?
I did strict carnivore last January.
Okay.
Just red meat, cut out, which really wasn't that far off of what I was doing before. But I cut out, it was mostly like macadamia nuts, some of the veggies, although I already was not eating a lot of veggies, and then went just red meat. So no like chicken or pork or fish or anything really for most of that time. And it was great. It felt really seasonally appropriate to do it in January.
Okay.
I always explain this to people. So I live in Canada. You go outside right now, it's like blizzarding today. If you didn't live in your house and you had to survive here, go outside, what would you eat?
Right.
It's not going to be a plant. The closest thing you're going to find a deer or maybe an elk if you're lucky, or like a bunny. You're going to find an animal, and that's it. That's all that's available right now. There's no edible plant matter outside in the frozen tundra of Canada in January. Do people need to be strict carnivore all year round? I don't think so either. I think it's totally fine. We were up in northern Saskatchewan in August with friends of ours that run a fishing camp, and we went blueberry picking on the Canadian Shield. And it's like, absolutely, I'm going to eat those amazing, wild, fresh picked blueberries, But it took us like a couple hours to gather even like a small little pail of them. They're small, they're sour, they're nowhere near as sweet as the big, like ones you get from Costco or whatever.
They're not genetically modified.
There's not that many of them. They're not as sugary. Yeah. But of course, like seasonally appropriate should, is it fine to eat some fruit? Like for sure. I'm not going to be like a, total.
Yeah. There's no dogma, right? The question is, right? The question to ask, and I think I say this in pretty much every video, at some point in time, you have to ask the question, is this going to help me or hurt me?
Yeah.
Do I know what it's going to do if I do eat it? And am I okay with it?
Yeah.
It's okay to, whatever, live your life, have a blast. As long as you're not doing stuff consistently on a basis that's going to hurt you, then, that's when you get into a problem. Like, have a piece of cake at a birthday party, have some, like you said, blueberries or whatever, have a glass of wine when you're, dad's retiring from his job and you're at a retirement party, like whatever. Relax, guys, relax. It's not, it's not the end of the world.
But I always say, like, the reason I love fasting is because I love food, and I really enjoy a meal if I actually got kind of hungry before I ate it. You know what I mean? If it's been 16 hours or 20 hours or 2 days since you had a meal and you sit down and you're like, this tastes amazing. And I love food. I love cooking. I love the flavors of things. I love the seasonal, things from nearby and things straight from nature. And what I had said in your questionnaire, you said, what's your favorite meal? And I said, steak from nearby, steak from cows that lived down the road from me,
Yeah.
that I think more of a, sometimes people approach, they're like, how can you cut out an entire food group, you know, if you don't eat carbs? It's like, well, it's not about that. It's not about deprivation and restriction. It's like, I eat the most nutrient dense things, eat the things that make me feel the best. I love amazing tastes and creations, and,
Yeah.
you know,
You can't deprive yourself from something that you don't need.
yeah.
Right. That's not deprivation. That's I don't even know what that is. That's, I don't even know what the word for that is, right? Because you don't need it. So you're not depriving yourself. You're depriving maybe your conditioning and your expectations of what you want to have. But if you're not depriving yourself from it, to me, I feel like it actually frees me up, right? Because now I can eat a lot of other things, and a lot of things that, number one, I used to be, more wary of eating because I thought they were bad for me.
Yeah.
And now I realize that they're not. So I can eat them all, bake it. I mean, how often, was I told growing up, particularly being a black kid, I was always told that, black people genetically have higher blood pressure. So you need to watch your salt. You need to watch, you can't eat too much bacon. Don't put salt on things. Like, that was just drove into my head.
Yeah.
And, now I'm like, give me all the salt, all the bacon, have everything. And, so yeah, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks for the opportunity.
One of these days I may decide to try to get that level 4. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Now that the thing is, now I'm mostly online. So I still do coach some classes, but it's just a couple times a week just to get the hours in. But it's like I'm mostly online now. I'm like, I don't even know if I need a level 4 at this point. But we'll see. It's kind of in the back of my mind. Maybe
it's in there. They've been toying, the CrossFit HQ's been toying with how to best go about doing the in-person evaluations. I don't know if they've come up with the best way to do it, but yeah, it's good to have it.
So they have it. I thought they had started them up again. Did they cancel? They close it down again with COVID?
I'm not totally sure. And I think just like the restrictions in different locations vary, some gyms are open, some are closed, some you can't do one-on-one, some you can, some you have to wear a mask. Like the rules are so different everywhere you go that I think it depends. Depends on the location where you are.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. I will let you know when this is posted so you can share it out and tell the world.
Yeah, for sure.